Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, December the 9th. So I hope everybody's week started well. I apologize, I got a background and everything. So I'm doing this on my laptop so I have a brighter light and clearer sound with my microphone testing to make sure there's no bouncing off the walls or anything like when I was recording in my bedroom on my computer. So we'll test this right now. So the video today is regarding bills in North Carolina. As I said, sometimes I will talk about North Carolina, which is where I live. And so I'm going to talk about Senate Bill 382, which is supposed to be the Helene Disaster Relief Bill. It's being billed as the third bill of relief. I didn't verify that, but the biggest thing um, on the news and things um, about this bill is about power from multiple elected positions, changing from those positions to other things to be held by the Republicans, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So, SB 32, SB means Senate bill. If it was called HR bill, HR 32, that means House of Representatives. But this bill was created by the Senate. So this is SB 382, the Helene Disaster Relief Bill. It takes money from the savings reserve and puts it into the Helene Relief Fund. The amount is $227 million. There was some talking about why they taking money from the savings account rather than creating and funding a the Helene Disaster Relief um, account. I've seen that on show on PBS, North Carolina PBS, called State Lines, and the local news and things like that. You might want to go onto YouTube and search North Carolina PBS if you're in the state of North Carolina. And then you can see state lines and then talk about that. You can see them talking about that. So again, as I said, this is supposed to be the Western North Carolina disaster relief bill with that money. However, the bill isn't just about the relief. It strips power from the coming governor, the coming lieutenant governor, the coming attorney general, and this is a mouthful, the superintendent, the state superintendent of public instructions. And we're going to talk about that title too. um, but anyway, what's going to be taken away from the governor? The governor will no longer be able to appoint the the seats on the board of elections. The way that the board of elections is done, there are 5 members, and based on the party of the governor, 3 of them are from the party of the governor, and the other 2 are from the other party. They have decided to strip that from the governorship, and it goes to the state auditor. Yes, the state auditor. Why would you say? Because isn't an auditor doing things like it's based on auditing money and fraud and things like that? You would be correct. Why they're moving the appointments to the auditor, I cannot verify that, but I think I know why, and we'll talk about that. Um, so that is about the the major thing about the Board of Elections. Also, the governor will no longer be able to um, um, put people or nominate people into the state party chairs and things. That's going to be done by the legislature. Again, why are they stripping the governor's powers? And again, just like I said, the auditor does the money and everything, and based on the 6 bullets on their website that deals with money and fraud and credit rating, the credit rating of the state. I mean, I suppose you could draw a line from election fraud over to, like I just said, fraud and, um, yeah, just fraud. Um, but, and it's big government waste and things like that. Um, but when I thought about this, I'm not seeing why this has to be done, um, why this has to be done by the auditor as far as appointing Board of Election positions. Hmm. Yeah, hold on to that. The lieutenant governor, I only found one thing that's being stripped from the lieutenant governor. There is a legislative commission um, called based on energy, the energy management crisis. It might be, it's not new, but I've never heard of this. But they're stripping that from the, excuse me, I don't know why my throat is so gravel, but when the winter and it's dry air and all of that. Again, apologies. The lieutenant governor was supposed to be the chair of the committee because it's not necessarily it is a legislative committee, but it's not like one of those small committees because the members are the House Speaker, the House Pro Tem, and from the Senate, the Senate Pro Tem, as well as the President of the Center of the Senate, which is the Lieutenant Governor. And there's a fifth position that I, I forgot to write down, but the Lieutenant Governor, being the chair, the Lieutenant Governor would break the tie if there was a tie between the committee. So they are stripping that from the lieutenant governor. And based on what I read in the bill, and I'll put the link of the bill so you can read it just like I did, I can't see whether there's going to be another position and then who's going to lead the commission, or maybe nothing's going to happen because generally speaking, the Republicans don't care about energy crisis. The Democrats do, and independents do. But that's all that I could find from the lieutenant governor. Now, the attorney general. The attorney general now, and remember, the attorney general is the highest attorney in the state, right? It bars the attorney general from participating in any legal argument that would result in a state law that was passed by the legislature. In a state law passed by the General Assembly in North Carolina, they call it the General Assembly, deemed invalid. I'll repeat that. The Attorney General, who is the state's lawyer, has been stripped from participating in any legal argument that would result in a state law passed by the General Assembly deemed invalid. Yep, just keep that. They're also stripping the position that he cannot take an opposite stance against the General Assembly. Why would the Attorney General take a separate stance against the Attorney General unless, I think an example is coming to me, yes, abortion. The General Assembly is run by the Republicans, and most of the loud speakers are from the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus in the state of North Carolina is just like the Freedom Caucus in the federal Congress. The Freedom Caucus is also known as the MAGA fashion. They agree that abortion is unconstitutional. But if the Attorney General has a stance that's saying, no, reproductive rights is constitutional, that goes against each other, they're saying the Attorney General cannot say that or do anything about it. So hold on to that. And it strips the requirement that the Attorney General's office must sign off on any settlement or compromise involving an employee of the judicial branch. Now, again, the Attorney General is the highest attorney in the state, but the General Assembly is barring the Attorney General signing off on any money or monetary settlement or compromise involving an employee of the judicial branch. So much for checks and balances. Judicial, executive, legislative, just like the federal government. So much for checks and balances. Well, finally, and this is a mouthful, at least for me, the superintendent of public instruction. Oh, I'm sorry. The state superintendent of public instruction. That is the person who oversees the school systems and education in the state of North Carolina. That position is also part of the Council of State. When you think about the Council of State, think about the federal executive branch where the president has a cabinet. The governor has a Council of State, but they're not 26 positions on here, but the president's cabinet does have 26 members. So this position is being stripped from oversight of the North Carolina Spark program. The Spark program, Spark North Carolina, encourages students to get into employment for some things like cybersecurity, AI, machine learning, software development, high level jobs that can get them into these departments in the state of North Carolina with money. They're taking that from be patient with me, the state superintendent of public instruction. And that's not all. They are stripping that position's authority over the Center for Safe Schools. Safe schools, public instruction. And they're moving that, wait for it, they're moving that power to the SBI. What is the SBI, you ask? The State Bureau of Investigation. And what do they do with regard to schools? Nothing. Nothing. The General Assembly of North Carolina is stripping the superintendent of this power and giving it to the SBI, who investigates state crimes. Not schoolyard fights, but actual crimes. That's ridiculous. My words, ridiculous. But hold on to that. Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't turn the volume down on my phone. You may have heard that. Why not align this with other Council of State positions like, oh, I don't know, as far as the title, instead of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, maybe Secretary of Education. Easier to say, same title, and what would be under that title, it's the same. But that will be a debate for another day. Now, think about this. They're going to use the SBI's resources to take over school resource officers. Maybe you can draw a line from school resource officers to the SBI. School resource officers, to my knowledge, don't carry guns. Um, they don't have any power off campus, and they don't work for the state, and they don't investigate crime. I mean, you could say a school fight is a crime. It's a school crime. It breaks policy. You're not supposed to do that. But the school district and the school, isn't there a school board for all these school districts? Don't they investigate that? And if it's criminal, then they send that over to city police, not state police. Stay with me. And now you're scratching your head. Why would they do this? Here's my theory. Currently, the North Carolina legislature has a supermajority. And what that means is if they say this bill and they send it to Governor Cooper's desk to sign because of his feelings about this being not really a disaster relief bill, he vetoed it. That went to the Senate and they overrode it because they have a supermajority. And there's nothing he can do about that. So now it's gone to the House. The House of Representatives were supposed to debate this today, but they have moved it or pushed it, I believe, until either Friday of this week or Wednesday of next week. It was on local news. Don't hold me to that. But they were supposed to deal with it today, but they decided to kick the can down the road and deal with it later, right before Christmas. Meanwhile, again, this bill holds $227 million for the people of Western North Carolina, waiting on housing, waiting on construction. Oh, and hold on to that because on the news tonight, I think they call themselves NC Corps, have stopped construction because they're supposed to start the construction of any disaster relief. They have stopped all construction because they're running out of money. Yes, you can see that I'm exacerbated because, I mean, I'm sorry that I don't live, but I have family who live in Western North Carolina. I newly discovered family based on an ancestry test that I did, but I found um, part of my father's family lives up there. And I don't know specifically how they were affected, but overall, there are small businesses that were lost, homes that were lost. There are still areas in Western North Carolina that still cannot get bridges built so that resources can be brought to their areas, building supplies, things like that, to rebuild their homes. There are people still in on FEMA's dollar, um, which is a good thing that they're there because they've extended the amount of time that they can stay in hotels and in hotels until they can get permanent housing. But again, construction has stopped because they don't have any money. And then this bill has $227 million for Western North Carolina, and it's being held up because of politics, of power. And I created this, what I'm about to say, years ago out of anger um, with people that I worked with. That these are children impersonating adults. children impersonating adults who are mad because they lost the marble game, and they're going to take all their marbles and they want the marbles back that they lost, and they're going to go home because they lost these seats elections, because all these seats that we the people of North Carolina elected, those seats are going to be um, held by the Democrats. Josh Stein. Um, the last name of the lieutenant governor is Hunt. I don't know if she's the daughter of the former governor Hunt or the granddaughter. She's a Democrat. The Attorney General Jeff Jackson is a Democrat, and Mo Green is the state superintendent of public instruction. All Democrats, and some of their power has been stripped because number one, the North Carolina legislature next year in 2025, when they take their oaths of office, I believe it's on January 3rd, I believe, they will no longer have a supermajority. And there were three initially on this bill. There were three Republicans who went against this bill. If they do it again before the end of this session, if they do it again in the House, the bill fails. It will fail, and then they have so much time to rewrite the bill, which I don't think they will have enough time to rewrite the bill the way the bill process works. So the next legislature will have to do it. But why should this have to wait until 2025 when the people in North Carolina, in Western North Carolina, some of them still don't have housing, still don't have heat, still don't have running water, still don't have connection, bridges and roads so they can get resources to them. Thankfully, there are organizations that are helping them. The federal government is helping them. But again, the federal government can only do so much. The state has to do something. The cities have to do something. Yet, they're holding this money based on being mad that they lost some of these seats, and they will not have the majority anymore. So there's something that I want you to do. I need you to find your voter registration card. On this voter registration card, on the front of it, you're going to see some numbers right across here. There is my city council number is blank because I don't live in the city limits. But my county commission district number is there. My school board district number is there. My state house representative number is there. My Senate Senate representation number is there, and the judicial district that I'm in is there, as well as my U.S. Congress district number is there. Find this, and then go to the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections and find out who your representatives are. Go to their websites, find their emails, hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. This is ridiculous. People are waiting on this money. It's ridiculous. And then in 2025, and you can actually see who's going to be your representatives next year. Some of them will change, some of them won't. But you can see who is going to be your representatives for the next 2 years in 2025 and hold them accountable. I mean, just because I voted for Josh Stein doesn't mean he gets a pass. I mean, he doesn't. But I have faith. I have more faith in him than I ever had in his opponent, whose name I'm not going to say because that's not what this video is about. But anyway, find this. If you don't have the card, then you can go to North Carolina SBE, and you can find that information there on the state website. If you're viewing outside of North Carolina, do the same thing. Find your voter registration card or find your state's website, and then you can see who your representatives are. Because just like me and some other people have been saying during this entire presidential election cycle, it's not just about the president. State elections matter. And in this video, what I want to remind you about state elections mattering, think about the people in Western North Carolina who are trying to get back. It's cold, yet $227 million is being held, from my perspective, for ransom. And that ransom is power being stripped. Because if let's say that Governor Cooper decided, well, it's the end of my term, there's not enough time, I'm just going to go ahead and let it go, then people who are on the Democratic side that said, Governor, you didn't stand up for us. But since he did stand up for people in Western North Carolina, saying that this is ridiculous, release the money. We can talk about power another day, but release the money. Now the Republicans are going to say, well, the Democrats didn't want y'all to have the money. That's why we stripped the power from them. That's just dumb. Dumb. And then we have a new Speaker of the House. He's a young and up and coming Freedom Caucus Republican. Hold him to accountable. The Senate pro tem, hold him to be accountable. But just like Josh Stein being the new governor, Jeff Jackson being the attorney general, Mo Green, contentious election about education, hold him to account. Hold his feet to the fire. If he does something, if he goes left, doesn't matter if he's the Democrat or Republican. Now that the elections are open, hold him to be accountable. All right. Don't forget your homework because I'm going to do it too. And I'll put links in the comments regarding the Mecklenburg County website as well as the state website if you don't have your voter registration card. All right. Well, thank you. Well, that's the end of this video. I had started videos regarding federal representation and federal government. I'm going to do it in 3 parts because of the 3 different branches. Because when I first did it, the video was like an hour long. I was like, nope, not doing that, not doing that. So I'm going to break it up into 3 different parts. So thank you for your presence. Thank you for viewing the video. Subscribe and like. But please, when you get into these conversations with other people, please share this video and have conversations about this. Because again, just like I said, state elections and people in those positions matter. Have a good evening.